What if the greatest thief of your dreams isn't failure, isn't time, isn't even money, but the invisible state of lack you carry like a shadow every single day? Most people don't realize this, but lack is not about numbers in a bank account. It's about the state you silently live in. You can work harder, pray louder, chase opportunities with all your energy, yet if the inner world is saturated with "I don't have," life has no choice but to echo that. Neville Goddard's teachings make it crystal clear. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. That's why so many remain stuck. They think desire itself is the key, but desire without fulfillment only repeats the message of absence. It's like telling the universe every day, "not yet." And because imagination creates reality, the mirror of life faithfully reflects the lack you've been rehearsing. Living in lack can only create lack. It never leads to abundance. But here's the paradox that changes everything. The moment you dare to assume the wish fulfilled, to feel gratitude as though it were already done, the entire axis shifts. Suddenly, you're no longer begging reality to change. You're embodying the change. And when the inner world shifts, the outer world has no choice but to follow. Most people believe lack shows up only in empty wallets or unpaid bills, but the truth runs much deeper. Lack is not about money itself. It's a silent state of being that colors every decision, every conversation, every thought. Neville Goddard's teachings reveal that living in lack is an invisible cloak people wear unconsciously, and when it's on, the outer world simply mirrors it back with precision. Think of someone who wakes up already calculating what's missing: time, opportunities, money. Before they sip their morning coffee, they're already creating lack. They don't realize the day has been scripted by those first anxious thoughts. The law of assumption doesn't wait until noon to take effect. Whatever state dominates inside becomes the tone of the day, and the mirror of life reflects it faithfully. Lack rarely screams, it whispers. It hides in common phrases like, "I hope this works," or "I never have enough." These words feel casual, but they carry the vibration of not having. Imagination creates reality whether we like it or not, and when imagination dwells on absence, it cannot produce abundance. The manifestation truth is simple. You cannot hold not enough inside and expect more than enough outside. Family patterns make this trap even trickier. Many grew up hearing, "We can't afford it," or "Life is hard." Those sentences, repeated with authority, planted seeds of scarcity in the subconscious. Without awareness, people keep living by those inherited scripts. Their self-concept becomes intertwined with shortage, and the cycle of creating lack repeats, generation after generation. What makes this trap invisible is how it disguises itself as reality. People defend their limitations by calling them facts, yet Neville Goddard taught that facts are nothing but shadows of inner belief. Today's circumstances are yesterday's assumptions hardened into form. And when the state of consciousness is lack versus fulfillment, reality has no choice but to display more lack. The most dangerous part, lack becomes normal. People adjust by shrinking their dreams, cutting their desires down to what seems possible, convincing themselves they're being practical. But that practicality is often just fear in disguise. It's not realism, it's the silent acceptance of living in lack, which can only create lack again. The trap tightens the moment it feels ordinary. Imagine standing before a mirror, frowning, waiting for the reflection to smile first. That's how the invisible trap works. People demand evidence before they allow themselves to feel abundance, but the mirror cannot smile first. It only returns the image shown to it. Conscious creation requires the inner smile before the reflection appears. Without it, the mirror endlessly repeats the frown of lack. This isn't punishment, it's precision. Just as gravity doesn't care who you are, the law of assumption plays no favorites. When the subconscious holds a state of emptiness, the outer world projects emptiness. Living in lack doesn't mean you're cursed. It means the mirror is simply doing its job. Reality isn't cruel, it's just accurate. Many sense this trap in quiet moments, when they notice how life feels like running in circles. Jobs change, relationships change, but the feeling of not enough lingers. That's the red flag. The problem was never outside. The invisible trap is stitched into the inner identity. Until that self-concept shifts, life will keep replaying the same storyline of scarcity. And once you see the trap, you can't unsee it. Suddenly, those little phrases, the anxious waiting, the shrinking of dreams become obvious. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but awareness is liberating. Because the moment you recognize lack scripting your days, a new question rises. If you don't manifest what you want, but who you are, then who are you choosing to be right now? Neville Goddard was clear. Reality doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to states of being. This is where most people get lost. They spend years visualizing what they want without realizing they are still living in lack. When the inner world is soaked with not having, the outer world has no choice but to echo it. Imagination creates reality, but only from the state you truly occupy. Wanting something is not the same as being it. A person can spend hours imagining abundance, but if they go to bed worrying about bills, their state is still lack. The law of assumption doesn't care about scattered moments of desire. It cares about the underlying tone. To assume the wish fulfilled is to embody fulfillment so deeply that life must bend to match it. Think of it like acting. An actor doesn't just say the lines, they step into the role. They feel the character's emotions, move with their mannerisms, and inhabit their world. Conscious creation works the same way. You don't manifest by asking politely for change. You manifest by stepping into the identity of the one who already lives the end. That identity rewrites the script. This is why so many feel stuck. They say affirmations, visualize houses or jobs, but nothing shifts. It's not that the techniques don't work, it's that they're practiced from the wrong state. If the subconscious message is, "I want this because I don't have it," then the very act of wanting reinforces absence. The mirror only reflects what is, not what is wished for. Neville Goddard's teachings dismantle the common illusion that more effort, more prayer, or more asking will eventually unlock manifestation. But effort born from lack creates lack again. The true power of assumption lies in shifting identity. When someone moves from living in lack to living in fulfillment, even before evidence shows up, reality begins to reorganize itself. Let's make it practical. Imagine two people walking into a store. One enters thinking, "I can't afford anything here." The other enters with the quiet confidence that money flows easily to them. Same store, same products, different state. The first will spot limitations, the second will spot possibilities. Conscious creation doesn't start with action. It starts with who you believe you are. The self-concept is the engine of manifestation truth. You can't feel like a victim inside and expect to live like a creator outside. You can't dwell in envy and call forth abundance. Life has no choice but to echo the dominant state of consciousness. Lack versus fulfillment is not just theory, it's the axis that reality spins on. Every failure in manifestation usually comes back to this misunderstanding. People chase outcomes without shifting identity. They think abundance will make them feel secure, not realizing security must come first to attract abundance. To live in the end is to flip that logic. Feel now what you think results will give you later. The mirror only knows how to copy. This principle explains why some who appear to have nothing radiate peace, joy, and even attract opportunities with ease. They are not begging reality to change, they are being the change. Their inner state of sufficiency draws sufficiency to them. The outer world simply bows to the authority of who they are being. That is the essence of Neville Goddard's law of assumption. So the real question becomes, are you trying to manifest from the posture of wanting or from the posture of being? If you're waiting for results to let you feel complete, you're still trapped in lack. But if you dare to feel complete now, to assume the wish fulfilled before the proof, then you unlock the very mechanism of conscious creation itself. And that leads us straight into why wanting alone can never be enough. At first glance, wanting seems innocent, even natural. After all, how could desire be a problem? Yet Neville Goddard pointed out a paradox most people miss. Wanting something often highlights that it isn't here. The subconscious doesn't hear the poetry of your wish. It only registers the vibration of not yet. And when that message repeats, the law of assumption has no choice but to echo absence. Picture someone saying, "I want more money." The words feel hopeful, but what they really confess is, "I don't have enough." Every time the phrase is repeated, the self-concept of lack is reinforced. The outer world, like a faithful mirror, cannot ignore the tone. Imagination creates reality, but it only creates from the state you occupy, not the dream you admire from afar. Wanting is like chasing your own shadow. The faster you run, the further it seems. When the state is, "I want," fulfillment remains one step ahead, just out of reach. Neville Goddard's teachings reveal that manifestation truth isn't about asking the universe, It's about being the universe in expression, and being begins with assuming the wish fulfilled, not endlessly desiring it. Think of a person longing for love. If the inner story is, "I hope someone will love me one day," the vibration is loneliness. That loneliness becomes the seed of what appears outside: missed connections, unavailable partners, repeated disappointments. Desire without fulfillment creates lack again. To live in the end is to feel loved now, to rest in the warmth of what already is. The danger of wanting is that it feels productive. People believe the intensity of their yearning is proof that they're closer to receiving. But in reality, the stronger the wanting, the louder the subconscious cry of absence. The feeling is the secret, and if the feeling being nourished is "not yet," then "not yet" must keep showing up. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine standing at a vending machine. You keep pressing the button for your snack, but nothing drops. So you press harder, shake the machine, even kick it. The wanting grows stronger, but the result doesn't change. Why? Because pressing harder doesn't change the fact that the machine is unplugged. In manifestation, wanting is the same. It has no power if the inner state is disconnected from fulfillment. Neville Goddard's power of assumption asks for a radical shift. Stop wanting and start being. When you embody fulfillment, the subconscious no longer hears absence. It hears completion, and completion attracts more of itself. The mirror doesn't need your begging. It only needs a new image to reflect. Lack versus fulfillment is always the hidden equation behind the results. Think of gratitude as a clue. Gratitude doesn't say, "I want." Gratitude says, "It's done." That subtle difference changes everything. When someone dwells in gratitude for what they desire, as if it already exists, the subconscious absorbs fulfillment instead of lack. And reality follows like a servant obeying its master's tone. The truth is, wanting is addictive. It gives the illusion of movement, the thrill of hope, but it quietly keeps the cycle of not enough alive. To break free, one must cross the invisible line between desire and fulfillment. Living in lack creates lack. Living in the end creates completion. The difference is felt long before it is seen, and once this is understood, the focus shifts. Instead of asking, when will it come, the new question becomes, what am I being right now? Because only the emotional signature of fulfillment calls forth its reflection, which leads us naturally to explore how those subtle emotions, anxiety, envy, or longing, keep feeding the state of lack itself. Lack doesn't always appear in words. Often it reveals itself in emotions. Anxiety, envy, and constant worry are like fingerprints of living in lack. Neville Goddard's teachings show us that feeling is the secret, which means these emotions aren't just moods, they are states of being. And since imagination creates reality, those feelings silently instruct life to reflect them back. Think about anxiety. It's the inner story of something is missing and I don't know if I'll get it. That tension, even if hidden behind a smile, becomes the dominant vibration. The law of assumption works faithfully. If the subconscious is saturated with fear of not having, then the outer world must mirror that storyline. Anxiety is not neutral, it's a command to reality. Envy is another emotional signature of lack. When someone sees others thriving and feels bitterness instead of inspiration, it's proof they're locked in the state of "I don't have." The comparison becomes an unconscious affirmation of shortage. And by dwelling in that energy, the person isn't just observing others, they're actively creating lack for themselves. The mirror, again, can only copy. Even the constant need for reassurance is a sign. People who repeatedly ask, "Do you think it will work? Do you think I'll get it?" are unknowingly confirming that they don't believe it's already theirs. The self-concept is still the one waiting, not the one fulfilled. Conscious creation requires persistence in the inner world, not endless seeking for evidence outside. These emotions might feel like passing clouds, but they're actually anchors. Every anxious thought, every jealous glance, every restless desire keeps the subconscious tied to lack versus fulfillment on the side of lack. They are the invisible tone-shaping experience. Neville Goddard often emphasized, it's not what you want that matters, but the mood you consistently carry. It's like a radio station. You can't tune into a frequency of sadness and expect to hear joyful music. If the state of consciousness is anxiety, the music of reality will echo situations that justify that anxiety. To change the outer song, you must first change the inner station. The emotional signature is the dial. Even gratitude can reveal whether someone is in lack or fulfillment. Gratitude that says, One day I'll have it, and then I'll be thankful, still vibrates with absence. But gratitude that feels now as if it's done radiates completion. The difference is subtle but powerful, and it shows why emotions are not just background noise, they're the core of creation. Here's something practical. Notice how the body feels when you're worried. Shoulders tense, breath shallow, chest tight. That physical state is the body's way of saying, I am dwelling in lack. On the other hand, think of the relief you feel when something resolves. Your body relaxes, breath deepens, calm returns. That state is fulfillment, and embodying it is the key to conscious creation. The emotional signature of lack also explains why appearances seem so stubborn. People try to think positive while still feeling anxious, and then wonder why nothing changes. But the subconscious doesn't listen to words, it listens to feelings. To live in the end is to dwell in the emotional tone of already having. Only then does the outer world align. Once you recognize emotions as messengers, everything changes. Anxiety no longer feels random, it's a clue. Envy no longer feels harmless, it's a signal. These emotions are teachers pointing out where the state of consciousness really is. And when that's understood, the question becomes, if the outer world only reflects the inner, what exactly is your current reflection saying back to you? Neville Goddard insisted on a truth that sounds simple, but feels radical. The outer world is nothing more than a reflection of the inner world. Just like a mirror can't smile until you do, life cannot display fulfillment if inside you're still dwelling in lack. Conscious creation means understanding that what you see outside is always a snapshot of what you've assumed within. Imagine walking past a storefront window. You see your reflection, but your hair looks messy. You wouldn't start trying to fix the glass, you'd fix yourself. Yet that's what most people do in life. They complain about circumstances, chase after money, beg for love, while never realizing the glass isn't the problem. The outer reflection is just echoing the inner state. This principle can be unsettling because it removes excuses. It means you can't blame bad luck or other people for the state you're in. The law of assumption is clear. The world is your mirror. Living in lack creates lack. Living in the end creates fulfillment. Lack versus fulfillment isn't just a concept, it's the code that reality runs on. Think about it in relationships. If someone constantly fears abandonment, that fear colors how they act. Clingy, doubtful, defensive. Eventually the partner feels suffocated and leaves, confirming the fear. But was it destiny? No, it was the mirror. The inner world of fear projected outward until reality matched it. The reflection wasn't cruel, it was accurate. The same happens with money. A person who secretly believes I'm always behind will unconsciously miss opportunities, resist risks, and settle for less. The bank account then confirms the belief. That's the law of reflection at work. The outer is never first, it's always second. Imagination creates reality by casting the image first within, then letting the mirror of life project it back. Here's the catch. The mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't judge either. If you show lack, it reflects lack. If you show fulfillment, it reflects fulfillment. The mirror isn't deciding what's possible, it's simply obedient. And that obedience means you're never truly stuck. The moment the inner world changes, the reflection must eventually change too. It's like a movie projector. The film reel inside determines the picture on the screen. No one would argue with the screen, demanding it show a different movie without changing the reel. Yet people do this daily. They fight with circumstances, forgetting the real of their self-concept is what's projecting lack. To change the movie, change the real. This is why persistence is vital. You may shift your inner state, but the mirror sometimes takes a moment to catch up. Just like a delayed echo, the outer world reflects the old assumptions until the new ones saturate the subconscious. Neville Goddard taught, never judge by appearances because appearances are always the past. The beauty of this law is its fairness. Anyone can test it. Start assuming small shifts, like being at peace or noticing abundance in simple things, and watch as outer reflections begin to align. It may start small, but once the mirror catches the full picture, the changes become undeniable. Conscious creation always proves itself in reflection. So the next time circumstances tempt you to react, pause. Ask yourself, am I fixing the glass or the face in the glass? Because the law of reflection guarantees this. The outer can never outpace the inner. And if that's true, then the path forward isn't fighting appearances, it's shifting identity from lack into fulfillment. which leads directly into how to make that shift real. Every transformation begins in the unseen. Neville Goddard's teachings show us that to move from living in lack to living in fulfillment, you don't wait for evidence, you assume it now. The shift happens the moment you dare to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled, even when nothing outside seems to justify it. Conscious creation always begins within. Think of it like moving houses. You can't keep one foot in the old home and expect to feel settled in the new. The same is true in the inner world. As long as you keep glancing back at lack, checking the bank account, doubting the relationship, fearing the outcome, you're still half living in the old address. To live in the end is to move all the way in. This doesn't mean pretending or faking. Fulfillment isn't about forcing positive thoughts while secretly trembling with doubt. It's about cultivating the emotional tone of already being there. Feeling is the secret, because the subconscious only responds to felt reality. When you embody the peace, relief, or joy of completion, you're broadcasting a new signal for the mirror to reflect. It helps to imagine the version of yourself who already has what you desire. How would they think? Walk? Talk? What decisions would they make? When you begin to act and feel from that self-concept, you stop chasing and start embodying. The outer world then begins to reorganize around the new identity. The shift is internal first, external second. Consider money as an example. Living in lack says, I hope I'll have enough. Living in fulfillment says, I trust money flows easily to me. Same life, same moment, but completely different states. One creates tension, the other creates ease. And over time, reality proves loyal to whichever one you embody most consistently. The shift is also about releasing the obsession with how. When you're trapped in lack, the mind constantly asks, how will it happen? Where will it come from? But fulfillment never asks how. It simply rests, knowing it's already done. By dropping the need to control the process, you step into the state that allows manifestation truth to unfold naturally. It's not about big leaps. It's about subtle daily choices. For example, instead of reacting to bills with fear, you might choose to bless them as proof that energy and services flowed into your life. Instead of envying someone else's success, you can use it as evidence that abundance is possible for you too. These small shifts rewire the subconscious into fulfillment. What makes the shift challenging is patience. Sometimes the outer reflection takes time to catch up, and that delay tempts people back into lack. But Neville Goddard emphasized persistence. Once you assume the end, hold it. Don't peek back into what is. The law of assumption guarantees the reflection must eventually align with the inner shift. The beauty is, once you experience it even once, faith grows. You realize the state of fulfillment is not a game of pretending. It's the key that unlocks everything. Living in lack only creates lack. Living in fulfillment sets life on a new trajectory. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes to dwell in completion. So the real invitation is this: don't wait for life to prove your desires possible. Step into them now. Assume the wish fulfilled, live in the end, and let the emotional signature of relief become your new normal. Because the moment you embody gratitude for what already is, the question naturally arises: how exactly do you practice this shift daily in a way that sticks? Neville Goddard often reminded us that imagination creates reality, but imagination without feeling is powerless. Gratitude embodiment is one of the simplest yet most profound ways to step into fulfillment. Instead of begging for change, you practice feeling as though the change has already arrived. Gratitude in this sense is not reaction, it's creation. Picture yourself receiving exactly what you've longed for. Maybe it's the promotion, the relationship, or the financial breakthrough. Instead of saying, "One day I'll be thankful," you let gratitude rise now, as if the phone call has already come, as if the miracle has already happened. That wave of relief and joy is the emotional signature of fulfillment. This practice rewires the subconscious. When you dwell in gratitude, you're no longer broadcasting "I don't have." You're affirming "it is mine already." And because the law of assumption responds only to states of being, not empty words, this embodied gratitude becomes the new inner world. Lack versus fulfillment tips toward fulfillment. It may help to tie this practice to a daily ritual. For example, each night before sleep, imagine one scene that implies your desire is already real. If it's financial freedom, picture yourself paying a bill effortlessly, smiling with relief. If it's love, imagine a quiet evening holding hands. Let gratitude flood in until the scene feels alive. That's conscious creation in action. Some people keep a gratitude journal, but Neville-style embodiment takes it further. Instead of listing what you hope will come, you write as though it has already unfolded. I'm so grateful I signed the contract today. I'm so thankful for the peace I feel in my home. The subconscious doesn't question whether it's literal. It only absorbs the emotional tone. The power of gratitude embodiment lies in consistency. At first it may feel like pretending, but the more you dwell in that state, the more natural it becomes. And as the self-concept shifts, the outer world begins to reorganize. Suddenly, you notice small doors opening, unexpected provision showing up, abundance appearing where you least expected it. Think of it like tuning a radio. Gratitude embodiment sets you to the frequency of fulfillment, and once you're tuned in, reality can't help but play the matching song. Even small things, like noticing beauty in a sunset or laughing with a friend, become evidence of alignment. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into proof of abundance. One key is to feel the gratitude in your body. Don't just think it. Let it soften your breath, relax your shoulders, bring a quiet smile. The body anchors the subconscious state. When you consistently feel gratitude physically, you're teaching the mind and body to live in fulfillment rather than lack. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You no longer wait for evidence before you feel thankful. You create evidence by being thankful first. That's the paradox Neville Goddard pointed to. Reality doesn't respond to what you want, but to who you are. Gratitude makes you the version of yourself that already has. And when that shift happens, you begin to notice something remarkable. You stop chasing signs of change and start experiencing them. Calm replaces anxiety, provision replaces worry, and abundance shows up in both small and surprising ways. Which brings us right into the next step. How do you recognize the signs that you've truly broken the cycle of lack? One of the first signs that you've shifted from lack to fulfillment is a quiet calm. The anxious urge to check, control, or calculate begins to soften. Neville Goddard's teachings remind us that when the state changes, feelings follow. Instead of waking up worried about what's missing, you notice yourself at peace, even before anything outside has changed. That calm is proof of the new self-concept taking root. Another clear sign is how you start noticing abundance in small, ordinary places. The smile of a stranger, a free coffee, or even the way the sun hits your window feels like wealth. This shift in perception isn't forced, it's natural. Living in lack blinds you to these things. Living in fulfillment makes them obvious. Conscious creation begins to feel less like effort and more like recognition. You may also find that envy begins to fade. Where once you felt bitterness at others' success, you now feel inspiration. Someone else's blessing no longer screams, "You don't have." Instead, it whispers, "This is possible for you too." That subtle shift is a powerful sign that you're no longer embodying absence, but aligning with manifestation truth. Unexpected provision is another hallmark. It might not be the full dream overnight, but small openings start to appear. Discounts, opportunities, or surprising help from others. Neville Goddard would call these bridges of incident. They're the outer world rearranging itself to match the new inner state. And because imagination creates reality, the provision feels almost effortless. Your language also changes without you trying. Instead of saying, "I hope it works out," you naturally say, "It's already working in my favor." Words follow state. The law of assumption guarantees that when the inner world is saturated with fulfillment, the outer expression, speech, tone, even posture, reflects it. You start to sound like the person who already has. There's also a sense of detachment. Not indifference, but freedom. You no longer obsess over timing or outcomes. You can want something deeply, but the frantic energy is gone. It feels as if the desire is safe with you, already secure within. That ease signals the emotional signature of fulfillment, replacing the restless hunger of lack versus fulfillment on the side of lack. Relationships shift too. People begin responding differently to you, not because they've changed, but because your self-concept has. You radiate confidence instead of neediness, generosity instead of fear. Conversations become smoother, opportunities flow through connections, and even old conflicts dissolve. The outer reflection simply follows the inner harmony. Perhaps one of the most surprising signs is joy without reason. You laugh more easily, enjoy simple routines, and feel a quiet satisfaction with life as it is. This doesn't mean you stop desiring more. It means you've stepped into the paradox Neville Goddard described. When you feel fulfilled now, the more comes naturally. Joy itself becomes magnetic. You may also notice your body reflecting the change. Sleep deepens, tension eases, and health often improves. Living in lack keeps the body in constant stress, but fulfillment relaxes the nervous system. When you dwell in the end, even your physiology reflects abundance. The shift becomes holistic, not just mental. The final and perhaps most profound sign is this: you stop asking, "When will it happen?" That question dissolves. Instead, you rest in knowing it's already done, and from that knowing, life begins to surprise you in ways logic could never predict. Which brings us to the next challenge. How do you keep persisting in abundance when appearances try to test your faith? The real test of conscious creation isn't when everything flows smoothly. It's when appearances seem to contradict your inner state. Neville Goddard's teachings emphasize this moment as the true proving ground. Anyone can feel abundant when evidence is clear, but the power of assumption is measured by whether you can hold the end, even when the mirror still shows the old reflection. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. For weeks, you see only dirt. If you dig it up every day to check its progress, you'll destroy it. Manifestation works the same way. Once you've assumed the wish fulfilled, you must let it grow unseen. Living in lack is like digging the seed up in fear. Living in the end means trusting the unseen process until the sprout breaks through. These tests often come through delays, setbacks, or even temporary losses. A bill arrives, a job opportunity falls through, or someone disappoints you. The temptation is to declare, "See, nothing works." But that reaction is a slip back into lack. Neville would say, appearances are nothing more than shadows of old assumptions. They are not the final word. Persisting in abundance means holding the emotional signature of fulfillment even when the bank balance, the relationship status, or the health report says otherwise. It's a quiet defiance, choosing to dwell in the end no matter what. The outer world has no choice but to catch up eventually, because imagination creates reality, not circumstances. One practical way to persist is to return to embodiment. Each time doubt arises, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and recall the feeling of relief as if it were already done. Gratitude embodiment resets the state. Instead of battling the outer world, you re-anchor in the inner world, knowing the mirror must obey. The battle is always won within. Another key is to avoid chasing signs. Many fall into the trap of asking, "Where's the evidence?" or looking for constant confirmation. But true persistence doesn't need proof. Just as you don't doubt gravity when you drop a glass, you don't doubt the law of assumption when results seem slow. You rest in certainty, trusting the unseen currents at work. It also helps to see challenges differently. Instead of calling them failures, view them as echoes of past states. They are proof the law is working, just showing you yesterday's assumptions. When you recognize this, the sting fades. You no longer panic at setbacks. You simply persist in the new state, knowing the old one is dissolving. Stories abound of people who persisted in faith despite appearances. Neville himself shared countless testimonies of students who ignored current facts and lived as if fulfilled. Over time, reality bent to their assumption in ways logic couldn't predict. That's the power of persisting, refusing to let appearances dictate identity. And as you practice, something beautiful happens. You become unshakable. Tests no longer throw you into despair. They become reminders of your authority. Each trial is an invitation to deepen conviction, to prove once again that living in lack creates lack, but living in fulfillment always prevails. At that point, you realize the journey was never about chasing outcomes, but about becoming. And once you've tasted that kind of inner stability, the final truth of abundance becomes clear. Lack never has the power to create abundance. Only abundance itself multiplies, which leads us naturally into Neville's ultimate reminder about the truth of abundance. Neville Goddard's teachings always return to one unshakable truth: lack can never create abundance. Living in lack only multiplies lack. Fulfillment alone has the power to reproduce itself. The law of assumption ensures that whatever you are being in consciousness must be echoed outward. That means abundance isn't something you chase, it's something you embody. Think of a fruit tree. An apple tree doesn't strain to produce oranges. It can only give more of what it already is. Consciousness works the same way. If your inner world is saturated with "I don't have," then life can only yield more "I don't have." But if you assume the wish fulfilled and live in the end, your reality must mirror that fulfillment. The truth of abundance is that it begins with a decision, not evidence. You choose to feel complete now, and reality bends around that choice. This is why Neville insisted that imagination creates reality. The unseen inner state writes the script long before the scene appears. Lack versus fulfillment is never neutral. One always dominates, and life always obeys. What's striking is how abundance isn't tied to possessions, but to identity. A wealthy person living in fear of losing everything is still in lack. A person with little, but a state of peace, radiates wealth in their being. The self-concept determines the quality of life. That's why Neville Goddard's law of assumption isn't about things, it's about who you are. Abundance is also deeply practical. When you feel whole, you stop shrinking from opportunities. You speak with confidence, you act with clarity. These small shifts compound, creating visible change. The outer world doesn't deliver abundance to you. It responds to the abundance you've already assumed. Life simply reflects the emotional signature you carry. The truth is, many people chase methods, rituals, or even luck, forgetting that the secret is already within. Feeling is the secret. The outer world is just a shadow. Once you assume the inner state of fulfillment, the mirror cannot resist. Abundance doesn't arrive as a favor. It arrives as a law being fulfilled. This understanding dissolves desperation. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" and instead declare, "It is already mine." That quiet certainty doesn't just change your mood, it changes your world. Neville often said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist." That's the entire formula of conscious creation condensed into one truth. Abundance also expands as you embody it. The more you notice it in daily life, peaceful mornings, laughter with friends, unexpected gifts, the more it multiplies. Attention is fertilizer. Whatever you dwell on grows. And when you dwell in the end, abundance naturally reproduces itself without strain. This is why Neville's teachings are timeless. They remind us that the source of abundance is not outside, it's inside. You're never waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to change your state. Once you do, the mirror of reality has no option but to follow. That's the power of assumption at its purest. And with that realization comes freedom. You see clearly that lack was only an illusion sustained by belief. The truth of abundance is that it was never missing. It was always available the moment you chose to be it. And now the invitation is simple. Will you keep feeding lack, or finally step into the state where fulfillment is already yours? So now, you see, the feeling of lack was never harmless. Every anxious thought, every "not yet," every quiet doubt was writing the script of your reality. And the truth is, it always will, because life has no choice but to mirror the state you embody. The question is, will you keep rehearsing lack, or will you finally dare to live as if it's already done? What would change in your day if you stopped waiting for proof and started walking in fulfillment now? Neville Goddard's teachings remind us that imagination creates reality, and your self-concept is the pen in your hand. The story of lack has already proven itself enough times. Why not test the story of abundance? Take a moment tonight to feel gratitude for the version of you that already has. Let that relief, that completion, be your new normal. Because the more you dwell in it, the faster life bends to meet it. And if this message stirred something in you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with me as we uncover more of these hidden truths that change everything.